Hello, everyone, and welcome to the College Tracker Show. I am Victoria Allen, your host for today. We see you all coming in. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So, our special guest for today is Bowling Green State University. So, we'll start with introductions and we'll go from there. John, would you like to introduce yourself?
All right, thanks, Victoria. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. My name is John Rodogmas. I'm the International Recruitment Advisor at BGSU International Programs, and I'm joined here with our assistant hockey coach as well, with Coach Carr.
Hi, everybody. My name's Curtis Carr. I'm the assistant hockey coach here at BG. And I grew up, some of you may know the area, Georgetown, Ontario, just outside Toronto.
Excellent. Thank you for the introductions. And before we get started, just to remind those that are watching in the Zoom room, if you have any questions or comments throughout the program, write it in the Q&A box. You should see that at the bottom of your screen. And those that are watching via live stream, write it in the comments and the team will get it over to our special guest for today. So we'll get started with just a moment with Coach Carr, if you would like to come on up. So just tell us about your role currently at the university.
Yep. So, as an assistant hockey coach here with the men's program, my main responsibility obviously is helping assist and coaching the team. And I work with the defensemen and the defensive side of the game, and penalty kill and things are my main responsibility with the team. But a big part of my job is recruiting potential student athletes and helping them with the transition from high school, junior hockey. Most of I'd say all of our guys have a year or two in between high school and coming to college where they play junior hockey, and helping assist them in the process there with maybe taking a couple classes, connecting them here on campus, and then helping them with the admissions process, the NCAA eligibility process, and helping them get situated here on campus when they arrive.
Can you tell us about just the athletic program you have and facilities?
Yeah, so we're really fortunate here. The whole athletic department, we're really fortunate. We have a weight room and strength and conditioning coaches and nutritionists and mental health experts and psychologists just for the student athletes. We have academic support, tutors, people to help you select your classes, your major, everything that's just for the student athletes. And then as far as the hockey team itself, we play in a 5,000 seat arena. We sell out most nights. We're really well supported here in this community and on campus. Obviously, our locker room, we have our own weight room. We have a lounge with theater to show video, and kind of a classroom setting within our lounge. So we're really fortunate here with all the facilities that we have.
And what advice do you have for student athletes that are looking to promote themselves?
Obviously, you have to be playing at a certain level to be recruited to play not just hockey, but all Division One sports. There's multiple levels to it. I would encourage you to understand the differences between Division One, Division Two, and Division Three, and even club sports that are available to you here in the U.S. And the biggest thing I think is understanding how your academics play a role in the type of institutions that you can go to, making sure you've taken what we call 16 core credits for the NCAA. That's essentially what you need to have is 16 core credits. Those are your math, your Englishes, your sciences. And those are the big ones that you have to have. And then there's a process called the NCAA Eligibility Center, and you have to send them all your academic information, and they certify you based on your academics if you're cleared academically to play at the collegiate level. So I think there's a conception, thought process out there that if you're a good enough athlete, you can just go and play, but you have to be a really strong student as well. And there's avenues you have to go through to make sure that you are a good student before you can just play the athletics. And then I think the big thing is if you're interested in a school with all the information out there now with online, through different doing seminars like this, doing some research, learning about the school, learning about the academics, learning about the community and the environment of the school, and then just sending a coach an email with your name and information on where you're playing and a little bit about yourself, I think goes a long way as well.
And in that email, what do you look for? Like, is there a way that they should structure it just to get to the point, or how do you
Yeah, I
like to
think
see
I,
emails?
I think short and simple is the best. We get a lot of emails every day. I think a little bit of just who you are, where you play, where you're from, when you've graduated, and kind of what your academics look like. I think is really important to have in the email, and it can just be really short and to the point.
Awesome. And I saw that more people began to join us. So if you have any questions as we're interviewing Coach Carr, please write that in the Q&A box. So you talked about academic resources. Can you expand what academic resources you have for the student athletes?
Yeah, so on campus we have an academic resource center for student athletes. So on top of all the academic support that's out there for all students, whether it be tutors, counselors, we have a life coaches now on campus as well that can kind of talk to you about your decisions, your sleep patterns, your nutrition, all those things that go into just helping you be successful. With the student athletes, we have counselors for each team that kind of oversee your classes each semester, keeping you on track towards graduation, dealing with professors. We have study hours certain times a week where they can go and get help. We have a computer lab for them, and then just a resource center where they can take, if they have a paper that they have to hand in or a project, they can take that stuff there ahead of time and have someone kind of go over it and make sure that it's at the standard it needs to be before they hand it in.
And I love that you mentioned, we talk a lot about how do you balance the academics with the athletics, but it sounds like y'all just help with balancing life in general, which is very important at the university. So I'm very happy to hear that. And then, so when it comes to advice for student athletes that are trying to qualify for athletic scholarship, what advice do you have in that area?
Again, every institution's a little bit different as far as how they award athletic aid and academic aid. We're fortunate we're a school that can do both. We can put it together. So having good academics does help in your aid and whether coaches can recruit you because they only have so many scholarships. And if you're a strong student and you qualify for academics, it can kind of help us spread money around to other students as well. I think just being open-minded, doing your research, knowing the level that you're playing at, take a look at their rosters to see where the players are coming from or student athletes are coming from prior to arriving on campus. So, you know, kind of the path that you may have to take. And then again, I think just being in contact or having a coach reach out to someone on the staff to speak of you, I think says a lot about you and kind of go from there.
And if they were to get a scholarship, what do they have to do to maintain the scholarship?
So you have to maintain good academic standing and progress towards your degree. So every semester you have to pass at least 9 hours from first semester to second semester, and you have to be above a 2.3 grade point average. And then from year to year, you have to pass 24 hours. So it does allow you the summer sometimes to take some extra classes, but then also every year you have to complete a certain percentage of your degree program. So freshman year, you have to have 25% of your degree completed after your freshman year. And then obviously 50 to 75, and you have to maintain that 2.3 grade point average. Now, every school could have a different standard as far as the grade point average and academic standards, depending on the institution. But the NCAA rule for Division One athletics is a 2.3. But some schools may have a higher standard than the 2.3. But you need to and stay in good academic standing. So you can't have any blemishes or have any issues whatsoever academically to maintain your scholarship.
And then with the renewal process, how does that work?
So they're renewed every year, um, and the only way you can lose an athletic scholarship is by falling out of academic eligibility with the school. So being on academic probation, If you quit or decide not to play the sport any longer, you could lose your money that way. And then if you do something that hurts, I guess, the image of the program, like get in trouble, get in some sort of situation that you may get arrested or something like that. That is how they can take it. But if you're a good person and a good student and go into class, then they just get renewed yearly.
All right, thank you, Coach. So we will loop back to Coach in just a moment. So we're going to transition over to John that will discuss admissions. And just remind everyone, if you have any questions, write in the Q&A box, and we'll go through our Q&A portion again at the end. Over to you, John.
All right, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Thanks to Coach Carr as well for the, informative session. So I'm going to run a quick presentation. Let me share my screen real quick. And then again, if you have any questions, save for us at the end of the presentation. I hope you can see my screen.
Yes, we can.
Okay, so just BGSU at a glance. So again, as we discussed today, Coach Carr's information, my information is listed here. My name is again John Rodogmus. I'm the International Recruiter Advisor for International Programs at BGSU. Bowling Green State University is located in Northwest Ohio. So we are actually not too far off from Ontario in general. It's about a 4.5, 5-hour drive from Toronto, Greater Toronto area. From actually Windsor, it's about 1.5 hours by car. So a lot of our students actually coming in or prefer to drive with the families and stuff when they're starting their program. So it's a very easy drive to come to BG. We were established in 1910 as an educational college. Our College of Education is one of the biggest programs at BGSU, but we have 7 different colleges and 200 plus programs at BGSU. Typically, we have about 19,000 to 20,000 students on campus. About 15,000 are undergraduate students, so majority of our students are undergraduate level. And also we're represented by 50 states as well as 72 countries. Canada is usually one of our larger populations, typically about 50, 60 students every semester. We don't have larger populations like, when you kind of compare other schools, you might have, maybe 40, 50% from China or India or something like that. But typically our larger populations are less than 100. So it's a balanced and diverse population group that we have. Typically about 1,000 students at any given time are international on campus. So it's about 5% of the total population. We are named one of the best college towns in America by Zillow. I think this is 3 or 4 years in a row. It's a very safe and secure campus community. It's a very small town, so nothing to compare to Toronto or any other major areas, but it's about 34,000 people in town. But like I mentioned, it's a large public university, so there'll be a lot of students on campus. And the town itself is built around the campus. So campus is about 5 square kilometers, and the town is about 18 square kilometers. So it's very easily accessible. And a lot of amenities for students like shopping, entertainment, restaurants and stuff like that. So you can easily kind of walk around. We do also offer shuttle services around town year round. So students can also participate in those as well. We are also one of the top public universities in Midwest for student satisfaction and engagement. These are actually surveys done by Wall Street Journal and other publications, and they actually ask the students. Typically, BGSU has over 90% satisfaction and engagement responses.
With the international office.
Our students actually really like our like the coach mentioned about the life design, academic support, student support opportunities on campus. So they feel very engaged and satisfied with our programs. We do have a lot of opportunities for them throughout the semester, both social and academic ways as well. So for the admission process, I'd like to just kind of go over. So I know you guys heard about the coach's information for the maintaining the academic or the athletic scholarships. For admission, we're looking for a 2.5 overall GPA from high school for our undergraduate programs. Typically for our scholarships, we require a 3.0 for our students, for international students. SAT and ACT is not required, and I believe it's still wait for the NCAA eligibility. Coach, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that's still the case. But typically we have still scholarships even with just high school transcripts, without obviously the TOEFL and IELTS. The English proficiencies are waived for Canadian students. But also if you have SAT or ACT, you can still submit them for additional academic scholarships. Like mentioned here, our highest level is usually around $12,000, and that usually requires a SAT or ACT score to be qualified for. But typically, if you have, for example, if you have a 3.5 GPA from high school, from Canada, overall GPA, you might actually get about $8,000 to $9,000. And if you have 3.7 or higher, you can actually get $10,000 without any other SAT or ACT test scores. So that is actually less than, if you receive $10,000, that's actually less than in state. Our total tuition and fees are about $21,000 a year. And if you're getting $10,000 in academic scholarships, your remaining balance will be less than our in-state, which is $11,500. But again, in addition to these are academic scholarships, and then you would also check with the athletic department for athletic scholarships, which will be on top additional for these. So this is the typical cost breakdown. So we are one of the most affordable schools for ranking and quality of education. Like I said, tuition and fees are about $21,000. Other costs, room and board, health insurance and stuff, it's usually about like another $14,000-15,000 a year, including everything. Our scholarship and admission deadline is usually June 1st. So for example, even if you're looking for a last minute application, you can still submit an application for fall for this semester start. So I'll be glad to help you with that. And our scholarships range from $4,000 to up to $12,000 in academic scholarships. So if you're a transfer student looking for transfer from a Canadian university, you can also receive $4,000 in scholarships. That's typical transfer scholarship for our students. As I mentioned, we have a lot of programs, so I highly recommend visiting our website. But some of our top programs I can highlight are our business programs. We have one of the top 100 business schools in the US. We do have 14 different specializations in the program. Couple of our highlighted programs are supply chain management, is one of our larger programs. It's a top 25 program in the US, as well as our business analytics and intelligence, which is a STEM area. So it is very important to kind of consider some of the STEM areas, especially for employment opportunities after graduation. If you're looking for what we call OPT, the work permit optional practical training, STEM areas can have a 2-year extension. So typically, if you graduate from a business major or psychology major, typically you get a 1-year work permit after graduation. But if you have a STEM area, if you get an employment opportunity, you can extend that work permit another 2 years, so a total of 36 months. So that makes a huge difference, especially from the employer point of view, because they might actually hire you, especially from a STEM area, knowing that it's an investment for at least 3 years that you can actually work with the company. So that's very, lucrative opportunity for both students and also the employer side. Another program is aviation. We have our own airport. This is one of the few campuses in the US, I think only total of 4 or 5 universities that has its own flight program and own airport on campus. This is walking distance from your dorms and the campus itself. We do have our own fleet, our own flight center. So it's a very good program. It's very highly sought after, especially after COVID. There's a lot of demand for pilots. So we do have a flight program for pilots as well as aviation management program. So students can choose 2 different tracks. Keep in mind the flight program, the pilot program is a little bit higher in costs. So any program is about $35,000, like I said before, for costs and everything. Flight program is about a little bit higher for the flight, the instruction and the equipment costs. So that's about $54,000, $55,000 a year. But again, if you compare it to some of the top schools like, Embry-Riddle or Arizona, they are still like $70,000 to $80,000 per year. So BGSU is still a very good deal compared to those schools as well. So with cost and employment opportunities, it's very good. We have direct contacts with airlines as well. So you can actually do internships throughout the program. There are at least 2 co-ops built into the program, and you can also get some work experience when you're actually going to school. Another program is psychology. We have one of the top psychology programs in the US. Industrial organizational psychology is number 3 in the US right now by US News and World Report. So that is also a very interesting program that a lot of students are asking about. We do recommend usually a bachelor's and a master's for a lot of the psychology programs. So that's also helpful to know. We do have all the way to PhD level studies at BGSU for psychology. We do have 17 varsity teams on campus, including men's ice hockey. It's also supported by the community itself. It's over 50 years old with the ice arena and everything. It's one of the well-known hockey programs. I believe it's one of the top 20 programs of all time, based on the quality and the success of the programs. We do have a lot of students from Canada coming and joining the program. We do have other sports as well. So if you're interested in, let us know. You can visit our website as well. So we have unique programs like men's and women's soccer, women's tennis, swimming and diving, as well as golf for both men's and women's. So a lot of options to choose from. And this is in addition to your academics, scholarships. So you can check with the coaches directly and look at some opportunities as well. And there's also, even you're not eligible to join one of the varsity teams, there are a lot of club sports and intramural sports and a lot of student organizations. We currently have 400 plus. So if you're looking for unique opportunities, still social activities and stuff, you can still benefit from other opportunities that we offer at BGSU. One of the key things I want to highlight also is our internship programs. So a lot of our programs actually offer some kind of internship or co-op during the undergraduate studies. A lot of students actually participate in these. You'll see some of our Canadian students also join our CPT, the curricular practical training programs. Whereas in summer, they might actually, get some internship opportunities. They work with the companies, which they can add to their resume. And most of those, job opportunities are paid. So they actually get a salary as well. So typically, I think like different colleges, give the average, but usually $15 to $20 an hour. So those are also very good for financial support for a lot of students. So you can do like a summer internship when you're studying at one of the academic programs, and that will directly impact your employment opportunities after you graduate. We have a lot of students, like typically about 30 to 40 students on CPT every year, and over 100 students on OPT, which are still on our records, but they are working with different companies. So Fortune 500 companies all listed across the board. So our students also gain employment with their internship opportunities. So that kind of competitive edge puts them ahead of the competition when they actually go in with 3 to 6 months of work experience. That makes a huge difference when you're looking for jobs. Here are some of our notable alumni. You'll see, you can recognize some of the companies as well. And we do have over, I think, 20,000 notable alumni in international areas. Anything from tech to automotive to, sports and everything. So there are a lot of alumni that actually keeps in touch with us, as well as promoting, our programs. And notable, companies still hire a lot of our students as well. So it's very, a good relationship with the companies that, they will be seeking out, especially BGSU students upon graduation, or even for internships and co-ops during the studies. And to wrap up, this is our contact information. You can see our Instagram and email addresses and our direct contacts for Coach Carr and myself. Feel free to contact us if you have any questions. Thank you.
And And John, you can keep that up for just a
Okay.
moment to give them as we come back up on stage with you so they can capture that at this time. And so we're going to start with questions in the Zoom room, and then we'll ask some questions that we got from the live stream. So, question from first question: when you receive an application and request aid, is a school of graduation a factor? Public school versus private for hockey. 91 average in either.
Can you, I'm looking at the question here. Can you read the last little part? Is there a difference between public
Yeah.
versus?
It is it after they apply, like, does the school that you graduate from like a factor when it comes to public school versus private? They're saying a 91, an average in either public
No,
versus private.
it's more about your grade point average, not so much the institution that you came from. And on average, coming from Canada, you get a bump in your grades to begin with, roughly a full point almost, because they view the academics standards there are just, at least in the NCAA process, considered to be a little bit different. So if you were an 82 or 83 average, when you went through the NCAA process, they'd give you credit being a Canadian student. You would almost be a 90 to 91 student, just on the grading scales.
And next question: how would you describe your baseball program? Is there a commitment to development of players, or do you want ready players?
Our baseball program is really good. They've had a good track record here. They have their own diamond. They're actually putting turf down. They're right across from the ice arena. Um, they have a little bit of both. They have players that come in right away and play as freshmen, and then they have freshmen come in that take some development time and work with them. They have a spring and a fall season, and they also have an indoor practice area as well. So they do a lot of practicing and a lot of development.
Next question: are there any resources for students who have a learning disability or ADHD, learning resource center, longer times for exams, quiet place to complete assignments, etc.?
Yeah, I know some of our players have academic, um, what would the word be? Considerations. Obviously, everything has to be documented as they come in, but those go over to the Student Resource Academic Resource Center. And if you need longer to take tests, or you need tests, say some students have them verbalized to you versus reading them yourself, or quiet areas and things like that. The type of class schedule you have, all that stuff gets accounted for, and obviously they make academic, um, make sure everybody's in a situation where they can be successful academically.
All
Yes,
right.
and we do have a learning commons too. I just
Yep.
want to add that students, if they need additional, support for tutoring and stuff like that, they can always get the support from that center as well. And we have life design coaches that kind of work with them throughout their studies. So there'll be always support, and we'll make sure that they are taken care of. And we do have a lot of check marks or checkpoints in the process. So if a student is actually having trouble in their, even from the get-go, from the first start of the semester, there are always points like the academic advisors get a notification. Our office gets a notification. I'm sure the coaches also get notifications where they're like, well, the student needs to get a little bit more support. So we direct them to Learning Commons or other support systems where before, it reaches a point where they fail a class, we try to make sure that it's fixed before it becomes a problem.
And can we talk about that bump that you were talking about in the GPA again? We have some questions about they weren't aware of the difference. Can you talk about that bump?
John, you want to answer it from your end, or?
Sure. I mean, you can share your personal experience too. And typically, a lot of our students come in with high-level GPAs from Canada. We convert them to our 4.0 GPA system usually, and then we do a fair evaluation. Even most cases, like if there are students coming in from It's usually the like students with 90 or 100, usually do not have any problem, but especially with the lower level or lower
Mhm.
GPA scores, if there are support from, for example, if admissions receives a letter from the counselor explaining the grade average of the class or the school itself, we also consider that as part of our admissions process. So if you have a 80, 85 GPA, but the student, average is about 90. So we still give a fair evaluation. So an 85 will be treated like as a higher GPA. So you would still receive a higher GPA calculation for your academics. So we still do that little bit of a holistic review, what we call. So we allow the students to have a fair evaluation for the studies.
Yeah, and what I was talking about is to go through the NCAA eligibility center to be eligible. You send your academics into them, and obviously, if you're an international student, they look at the education system where you're coming from, and there's a bump in the grades for Canadian kids because they view the standard or the grading scale in the Canadian schools to be different than the US. And same, we just have a Swedish player going through it, and how they broke down his grades is a little bit different in the NCAA eligibility versus what maybe on his transcript in Sweden, just because they look at the schooling system where you come from.
Thank you. What is the tuition for Ontario residents?
So the tuition and fees are the same for all international students and out of state. It's basically about $21,000 a year, but you can still apply. We are one of the universities that are actually certified by the Toronto and Ontario. So you're looking for, let's say, a financial aid even from Canada side, you can apply for loans and stuff like that. I think our ESP and there are other different sources that you can apply for. BGSU is one of the certified schools. So in addition to academic and athletic scholarships, which usually covers significant amount of the cost, if you're still looking for loans or opportunities, you can also search for loan opportunities on Canadian side.
And we have questions about track standards for recruiting. Where can they go to find just more information about that?
For the like,
Track. Yep. Well, they said, what are track standards for recruiting, tryouts for track and field?
yeah, so every program kind of has tryouts here on campus, but I think the best way to kind of get an idea of, I guess, the caliber of the athlete or the student that's on the team is if you go through their rosters, you can get an idea of where they came from and the level that they were at prior to getting here and participating at BG.
Awesome. Thank you. And thank you, John, for dropping that link in the chat
Mhm.
there. Everyone, make sure you grab that and check it out. Next question. Looking to find out when I have to be NCAA eligible by. So let me break these questions down. So when do they have to be NCAA eligible?
It's something that they should be working through as they're going through high school. So going into your grade 11 year, I'd probably register and start sending your information in because they'll start looking at it. I would have a conversation with your guidance counselor on camp at school, explaining that you're hoping to go to the US and play an NCAA sport, and that they can make sure that you're on track to graduate with the 16 core credits that you need in order to be eligible through the NCAA eligibility center. And then once you are done high school, your high school has to send your official transcript. It can't come from you. It can't come from myself. Like, you can't send it to me and I send it in. Your high school has to send your official transcript to the NCAA eligibility center, and then they'll certify you based on your grades and your core credits.
And the question continues, two-part. When do I have to complete my SAT test by, and when is the latest I can apply to the university?
So the SAT is a tricky one now. It's an institutional requirement now, I believe, right, John? It's not an NCAA eligibility one anymore. They just actually have stopped that requirement. So that is new moving forward. The NCAA and ACT is not required for NCAA eligibility center anymore, but it'll be an institutional decision. And I believe BG is test optional. I don't want to misspeak, but depending on your grade point average or your grades, the test can obviously help depending on because it's a sliding scale.
Sure. So that's correct. Thanks for mentioning that, Coach Carr, as well. So for scholarship purposes, academic scholarship purposes, we are test optional, but our higher level scholarship. So if you're looking for a $12,000 scholarship per academic year, we highly recommend having an SAT or ACT. So typically, without an SAT or ACT, our scholarships range from 4,000 to 10,000. So if you add an SAT or ACT to that, equation, you can actually get up to $12,000 a year for scholarships. Again, this is not required for admission. It's just for academic scholarship purposes.
Next question. Looking for info on scholarships and playing volleyball in the U.S. Do you recommend that website that you dropped earlier, John, for that? Okay. All right.
Yes, and then like the recommendation would be just visit our BGSU Falcons website, and then you can actually go down to the roster. So each team's roster, you'll see at the bottom, you'll see all the coaches' information. So for example, Coach Carr on the men's hockey. So if you go to on the women's volleyball team, you would see the drop down menu. Reach out to the coaches, please, and then you can get some more information from there for athletic opportunities as well.
Thank you. And so that is bgsufalcons.com. So check out that website. So let me make sure I believe I captured all the questions from the live stream. Excellent. And we're going to go back in the Zoom room. So the same for the question. I'm looking for information about women's swimming, any info in general, and maybe how many international swimmers are on the team. So definitely check out that website we just mentioned, bgsufalcons.com. Um, they don't really see many Canadians on the football roster. I want to know, do you have a football coach recruiting in Canada to add more
I
Canadians to the roster?
Yeah, I would say in general, there's not a lot of Canadians playing football at the college level in the U.S. There have been. They'll recruit anybody that's a good player, obviously, and a good student athlete. So again, I'd recommend just getting on and they actually have a recruiting coach and connecting with that coach.
Thank you. And this loops back to just reaching out to your guidance counselor. But what if at their school that they don't have anyone experienced with helping with NCAA eligibility? Do you have a resource, a link for self-discovery?
If I don't, it's the NCAA.org. Will take you to the NCAA website, and through there you can look at what the academic standards are. You can look to see what a core credit breaks down to. You can actually put in the school that you're going to now, and they can give you an idea of the classes and everything else. And then through there, you have a link to the eligibility center. And by registering with the eligibility center, you can send them information, and they have people that work at the eligibility center that can answer questions for you regarding your transcript and your core classes to help give you guidance as well if you don't have someone at your school.
Awesome. Thank you. And that wraps up all of our questions that we have for you both today. And I just dropped that website in the chat again, so make sure you grab that before we close out. So just want to thank you so much for coming and sharing Bowling Green State University with us today. We appreciate just you coming and spending that time with us. And then everyone who came and watched us via the live stream. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for all your questions and all of your interactions. So we'll see you next time on the College Tracker Show. Thank you.
Thank you. Best of
Bye.
luck to everybody.